started. So my name is Adrienne Delissio. I'm the Executive Director of Naturally New York. And for those of you that are not familiar with the Naturally Network, we do have a couple chapters here represented. We are helping to bridge connections across the natural product industry by hosting a lot of programming that provides education, opportunities to network, and basically giving all the tools and resources needed to help brands scale. So we're very excited to introduce Fairfield Partners back with Jovial Foods to share more about how they actually grew their own growth journey over the last few years. I'll also be sharing some programming that's coming up for Naturally New York later on in the chat. Everything here will be recorded, shared to our YouTube channel, and will also be received in our follow-up communication. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to also kick it over to my counterpart, Allie Elliott, Community Manager of Naturally New England. Allie?
Thank you. So, for those who do not know me, my name is Allie and I run Naturally New England. We support the Naturally Network and we have a community dedicated to supporting and connecting founders, emerging brands, retailers, investors, industry partners across natural products and that entire ecosystem. And our goal is simple to help build meaningful connections, create opportunities, and support the growth of better for you brands throughout the region. We're especially excited for today's conversation with Fairfield Partners and Jovial Foods because it really gets at the heart of what growth looks like behind the scenes. The people, leadership, hiring decisions, systems that help companies scale thoughtfully and sustainably. We're also just coming off of an amazing Pitch Slam week, and we did award over $57,000 in prizes to our top two brands in the competition. So that was fantastic. And we're so excited to be here. So we're joined by Brian Curry, who is the managing partner at Fairfield Partners. And I'm thrilled to welcome Frank Bergin, who is the president of Jovial Foods. Under Frank's leadership, Jovial has tripled in size over the past 6 years, all while remaining bootstrapped and staying deeply committed to quality, values, and continuous improvement. So today we're going to hear all about that journey, what's needed to change as the company grew, the role people and leadership played in scaling successfully, and the systems and decisions that helped make long-term growth possible. So, Frank, please take it away.
Thanks, Allie, and thanks, Adrian. It's an honor to be here today, and I hope by sharing our story over the past 6 years or 30 years, depending on how you're looking at it, will inspire some other companies who are on here today to follow a similar path. You'll get our contact information at the end if you don't have it already, and I'm always happy to connect and answer any questions that we can't get through in the next 56 minutes. And there is some time for questions at the end. So before we get too far into it, let me just first give you a quick background on the company if you're not familiar with Jovial. One of the things we hear most frequently when we go to trade shows is, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were the same company, Jovial and BioNature. That's amazing. I didn't know." But we are. In fact, BioNature was the first brand and Jovial the second. We've been around now 30 years, and we'll talk about that journey here in a second. But the Jovial brand is all about inherently healthier or superior Italian foods. We're probably best known for our organic brown rice gluten-free pasta. It's one of the leading brands of gluten-free pasta, the leading brand of organic gluten-free pasta. And we're also well known for our einkorn flour. It's the world's most ancient form of flour, and we'll talk more about that here. But these are our two kind of hero products under Jovial. BioNature is the OG organic Italian, imported Italian products. Got started 30 years ago. It was the first organic Italian pasta accepted into Bread and Circus, one of the precursor retailers for Whole Foods. We're well known for our strained and paste tomatoes, which are number one or two in the natural category and making inroads into US foods now. So those are our two brands. The company was started, and originally it was known as Euro USA Trading Company Inc., which doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but it was started by Rodolfo Viola and Carla Bartolucci. I'm going to focus today on the latest 20% of the company's history. But Carla and Rodolfo started it in 1996. And if you want to hear it straight from Carla, please dial in or tune into Guy Raz's How I Built This from several years ago. Wonderful interview with Carla. It's about an hour long, and it'll give you great insights into how they got started in the early days, things that I just am not in a position to talk about. What I can tell you is that Carla and Rodolfo are both uniquely remarkable people. They both are, driven by a desire to create a company that's true to its values, that remains independent and family owned, has many, many, many times, almost weekly now, rejected any idea of accepting outside money, and giving up even small percentage control of the company because they want to do what's right. And that's so unique and different and really informs everything we do. We, of course, pay attention to the bottom line, but it's more from the standpoint of making sure that the company is going to endure and survive and thrive, to bring both brands to life bigger and better than they ever were before. So, I've really been blessed to learn from both of them. I consider it a marriage of the American kitchen and the Italian farm. They both had very unique insights. Carla was the driving operator of the business, and Rodolfo has been the face to our 14 co-manufacturers in Italy and many, many, many farmers. So this is in one slide, the brief history background of what was going on with Jovial before I arrived. Over here on the left, you see one of the original bags of organic pasta from Bio Nature, and it launched. And actually, we don't see before, but it started growing. It had traction thanks to it being on trend because it was organic, and there was a line of whole wheat pasta back when whole wheat was a thing, and it achieved a lot of distribution growth in the early 2000s. Carla and Rodolfo had partnered with a group of European owners and investors to market and distribute Bio Nature in the US. And as you can see, it was going pretty well. But in the late 2000s, two things happened. First of all, those investors double-crossed Carla and Rodolfo, and they signed an agreement with another group to distribute and market Bio Nature products in the US. There was a huge lawsuit. It took over a decade to resolve, and in those ensuing years, nothing happened with Bio Nature. There was no packaging changes. There was no marketing investments. There were no new products. It still continued to be sold and be out in the marketplace, but there was nothing new, nothing keeping it fresh. And as you see, there's a very stagnant line here that took place. The second thing that happened was Carla and Rodolfo decided, like, look, if we're going to go out of business and we're going to be miserable, we're going to be miserable back in Italy, which is where Rodolfo's from, instead of being in Connecticut, where Carla was from. So they moved their two young daughters, to Italy. And Carla then, for the next decade plus, commuted on a monthly basis back and forth between Connecticut and Italy. So, quite a time. Their daughter, Julia, the oldest of their two daughters, struggled with gluten. And as you know, gluten between the pizza and the pasta in Italy is a big deal. And they went looking for solutions for her eating challenge. And that's when they hit upon einkorn, and also leveraged their knowledge of the pasta market to develop the brown rice pasta with one of their trusted co-manufacturers from Bio Nature. And they launched Jovial. So as you can see, Jovial took off because of both those products, both einkorn, but more so the brown rice pasta. and was growing steadily. So there was a nice growth until about 2016 or so. Things leveled off. That was as much to do with the bio nature decline as Jovial. But Carla started talking to her advisors and trying to figure out what she should do, what they should do to, continue to grow and thrive. There are a number of ideas that came up. Moving more to a high-low strategy was one of them. We were on an everyday low price strategy here. And the second thing was, Carla, you and Rodolfo need to take a step back and bring in some professional managers to run the business. It took a while, and really it took bio nature getting thrown out of, discontinued by Whole Foods for Carla and Rodolfo to make that decision. So this was at the end of 2019. This nice little lift up here that you see comes from two things. One was Walmart distribution, a small test on Jovial brown rice pasta in the mid 2019. And then also, of course, there was a UNFI pre-price load-in that helped with volumes at the end of the year. So a little stagnant, a little hint of promise at the end of 2019, and then I arrived. So no better way to join a pasta company than right at the outset of a pandemic. And literally that's when I started. My first day with Jovial, I flew to Organic Expo West on March 2nd. I landed, and 2 hours later, the show was canceled. We had a house rented by the beach and had flown in 3 chefs from Italy who did not have COVID, but that became a concern. We had planned to host many parties for our brokers and customers and distributors, and instead wound up spending 3 days in a sales and marketing meeting, getting to know my new team while 3 Italian chefs filled us with food that was meant to feed an army of people. So that's how my time with Jovial got started. I had an awesome 100-day plan that went right out the window in week 1. I learned a lot about the business in those first few weeks. Our warehouse emptied. I got to know all of our 14 co-manufacturers and their lead times and pinch points and our entire supply chain. So it was a great way to get started. As the pandemic went on, we realized that we needed to focus. And there was a lot of things that we could do, but we needed to focus our attention. I've always found that teams overestimate what they can do in the short term, but underestimate what they can do in the long term. So we were very deliberate about setting priorities and going at them, and then moving on to the next priority once one was in place. One of the priorities that we'll talk about a little bit later is that we hired a new head of sales, and he helped us bring focus and strategy, Matthew McCarthy, if anyone knows him, to bring focus and strategy to our channel efforts and customers. One of the biggest things we did was prioritize Whole Foods, both from an investment, from a promotional investment standpoint, but also from building relationships with them. To this date, we have not launched a single new product without first sharing the idea and partnering with the Whole Foods buyer in the various categories to develop the product. And in almost all instances, they have taken that item in during a period of exclusivity before it opened up to the wider market. So we built a wonderful relationship with Whole Foods, our biggest customer, our best marketing tool. It's been great. On the other hand, we were fresh into Walmart at the time. And with Walmart, we needed to get our back of house in order. We were not set up to avoid OTIF fines. We were not set up to create the pull-through from the shelf at Walmart. And we spent time with our precious few marketing dollars working on that, and also working with a new third-party logistics provider to make sure we are set up to handle the Walmart business. And it just kept growing from there as we proved ourselves more and more worthy of more stores. The other 2 channels were both e-commerce driven. And as you know, at the outset of COVID, everything went online. And so we had a $30,000 Amazon business that we were trying to build. Third-party sellers had incredible control of our brand. Crazy. We couldn't control what was being said. We couldn't advertise. We started to do it ourselves, but we wound up through consultants advising us to partner with a company, and we found a great partner, and the business has taken off from there. And it's one of our other great marketing channels right now. Last but not least, our own website. We did a lot back of house to make it profitable and make it the big marketing tool that we use today. So just when we got through 2020, we thought, wow, we got through COVID. Let's see what we can do to hold on to those gains. And lo and behold, the ocean shipping cost absolutely blew up. A container of product, of which we right now ship about 1,000, went from costing around $2,400 to $9,400 overnight. Everything comes in on container. Not only were the containers more expensive, but they were delayed, rerouted, hard to get in the ports. And when we tried to return the container, we weren't able to, so we had to pay fines for holding on to the empty containers longer. This was an absolute nightmare. It all but wiped out our profitability for the next year and a half, 2 years. And it was really difficult because we couldn't price. We knew it was temporary. We weren't going to raise our price in the marketplace, so we just had to tighten our belts as much as possible. But wait, it gets worse. 5 years ago, this coming Friday, I got just the worst phone call news that Carla had passed away. It was sudden. It was unexpected, tragic, devastating. We were not prepared for it. It was not something I ever want to live through again. The silver lining of COVID had been that I had to learn very quickly a lot about the business. And I think the organization got used to having to deal with me rather than looking to Carla and Rodolfo during that time frame, and that wound up being very, very helpful as we made the transition from not just not having a founder run the business every day, but not having one of the main founders there at all. So it was a huge adjustment for everybody. I'm thankful to say that now Rodolfo and his 2 daughters own the business. Again, independent, completely bootstrapped outright. Julia, the older of the 2 daughters, an inspiration for some of our biggest products, is involved in the company. She is very involved in marketing, and if you get any of our newsletters, which I encourage you to sign up for, you'll see Julia on a regular basis sharing some of her favorite recipes and memories, and she's been a real help in the marketing area and in many, many key decisions, along with Rodolfo, who remains our face to the 14 co-manufacturers and producers in Italy. It was a huge shift to go from working with Carla on a daily basis. She knew the business way better than I did. And she, it was totally fine to send her an ugly spreadsheet and she got it and we went quick. With Rodolfo and Julia, it was a different game. And so we had to get used to sharing information with them very differently. They remain, as always, very committed to doing the right thing by our consumers, doing the right thing for our brands, and just making sure that the business continues to exist and thrive. Really quickly here, I just wanted to give you a sneak peek into what went on organizationally over the past 6 years. I just talked about how the operational leadership changed. Although our revenue tripled, our headcount did not. Our headcount went up by 30%, certainly did not triple. You can see here where we placed our priorities and bets. One of the biggest areas that we have invested in has been sales. I told you we brought on Matthew, head of marketing, in 2020. Here we barely had data, sales data. Now we have so much data that last year we hired a sales insight manager, and she's integral to the team. We've also brought on a couple new sales managers. One thing I wanted to mention is that while we brought on Matthew to be the head of sales, we did not fire the person who had the job when we brought him in. She has continued to be a vital part of the team, and has overseen the Whole Foods and Walmart relationships that have been the engine of growth for the company. So don't think you have to clear house every time you start at a new place. We went from having one person handling all that logistical craziness to now four, and it's still crazy. This still is a number that's probably well under where it should be. We invested in our online store operation, a little bit extra finance, and in marketing. While we had the same number of marketing headcount, we did bring in 2022 a new head of marketing. For those of you in naturally New England, you know Allison Houle well. We love her, and she's done amazing things for our company. You'll see some of that here in a bit. We were very flexible in terms of location when we hired. Almost everybody we've hired has either been hybrid or fully remote since 2020. I mentioned the warehouse change, and one of the biggest changes that we made organizationally was we went from, Carla and Rodolfo deciding what they thought people should get as a year-end bonus, to having the team be on KPI-based incentive plans where we're all aligned and incentivized to grow together. So those are some organizational changes that went on there. I just want to give you a little bit of a dive into some of the marketing and portfolio-related changes in 2 minutes' time. One of the biggest things we did initially was we really focused on what our messaging was around some of our key products. This package on the left was one of our leading products, the einkorn flour. For those of you who don't know what einkorn is, it's the world's most ancient form of wheat. From it, all wheat has come. It's never been hybridized. It's completely molecularly different from modern wheat. And so most people who are gluten sensitive, not celiac, but gluten sensitive, find they can tolerate it very, very well. If you look at this package here, if you're looking for a gluten alternative, a big loaf of bread is probably not going to catch your eye in the proper way. Some people had heard of einkorn, but it was buried here in the copy. So internally, not with any big focus groups or anything, we just spent time going through what we were hearing from consumers in social media and in our consumer response line, and working with an agency partner. We prioritized and laid out new packaging, but also new marketing communications that more clearly delivered on what was the benefit to the consumers, what the product was, and then what the considerable third-party certificates and bullet points are there on the product line. Made a huge difference. About a year in, this went national at Whole Foods, 2 SKUs, and we've gone on from there in the whole portfolio. Shortly after Allison joined us, we took what was the Bio Nature portfolio at the time. People couldn't even read the brand name Bio Nature. They certainly couldn't pronounce it, and they had no idea that it was a premium Italian brand. Again, we worked very scrappily. We did focus groups in Allison's kitchen with people who met our consumer profile in Rhode Island, and worked on what they thought should be on a package for an authentic, organic Italian product line. Took that brief to a partner, and a couple of months later wound up with this overhaul redesign. It's had a big effect on the business, as you'll see here in a second. We also have been very scrappy in launching new products. We're always working on new products. Some of them have been close in, from new cuts of pasta to further out, brand new types of pasta. Our new sourdough pasta is delicious. If you hadn't had it, please go out and try. But all of these products I mentioned, we've partnered with Whole Foods. We've listened to the buyers and our consumers very carefully. No big focus groups, no big AI generated think tanks. This is all internally generated. When the Whole Foods buyer told us they needed a really good organic pasta sauce, we listened and worked with our partners in Italy without compromising our standards. We delivered it to the marketplace, and it's just now rolling out broadly outside of Whole Foods. We're delighted to say that we're number three, the third fastest moving pasta sauce in Whole Foods, behind those other guys you might know, Rayo's and Carbone. But that's a little bit of insight into the products that new products that we developed here. One last thing that we've spent a lot of time at is we don't want to get complacent. We always want to do more to bring our values and mission to life. And so even though we were the OG organic pasta player in the US, we didn't rest on that. So we became in 2021 the first pasta line to be certified glyphosate free by Project Detox. We're moving to get all of our products in our portfolio certified. We're only missing like one category at this point. And then over the last year, we have been one of the brands helping lead the launch of regenerative organic certification in the marketplace. And starting this month, you'll see Jovial brown rice pastas, regenerative organic certified, hitting the marketplace to go along with our regenerative organic einkorn flour and bio-nature tomatoes. So we're committed to this. We're going to keep driving to have the cleanest possible products on the marketplace for our consumers and for the products themselves to be better. So I just leave you with the three last slides. We left off here in 2019. You see the run we've been on the past 6 years. We've tripled in size. Jovial has been the engine of that growth. But you see here over the last few years, bio-nature has started to head in the right direction as well. We're very focused on getting this line going up into the left a bit in line with Jovial. And we think we have the marketing and the products to do that. Whenever I see a chart like that, I'm very like this. I'm very jealous and envious of the company behind it. But please do not be fooled. This is what it might have looked like. That might have been what our plan was like, but it has been anything but. Aside from COVID, Carla's passing, the ocean shipping crisis, we've also dealt with dock worker strikes, cyber attacks, a war. We've dealt with raw material shortages, anything. We have an internal expression about there never being a dull moment. And, we take pride in the fact that we've been very resilient working through these things. So just the last page here. I think I've touched on a lot of these points. So you have this for later, but, supply chain, so important. I had no idea how much time that would take of my time and energy, but it's really important to get your foundations in place if you're planning to grow, especially around e-commerce, especially around Walmart. Really, really important. Data investments pay off. Be a good partner, prioritize smartly, get your team aligned, set goals, track against them, see how you're doing, celebrate the wins, wash, rinse, repeat. It's important that everyone be aligned and you share what's going on, good and bad, so that everyone is in the boat, rowing in the same direction. My last point, and it'll serve as a transition here to Brian, is the key hires have had a huge impact on the business. And I will tell you that during COVID, we wrestled with whether or not it was the time to add a new head of sales or to add a new head of marketing. And in hindsight, I will tell you that Our takeaway is we should have done it sooner. The money we invested came back to us in ways we never thought possible. Matthew and Allison have been fantastic, growth multipliers, and really essential to the success of the company. But where did we find them? I'm delighted to introduce Brian Curry from Fairfield Partners. And I'll just tell you this, when we did decide that it was time to add Matthew, he was first. It was a no-brainer to go to Fairfield. I've known them for a while, but they know everybody. I think they know most of the people on this call. It's what they do. When you hire them, you don't get some low-level assistants doing the screening. You get them. They have met everybody. They know everybody, and they're working to be the matchmaker. So there's a great fit. Their pricing and their placement policies make it very easy to trust them and partner with them. And they're very insightful and funny. And Brian's going to get all the credit here, but Phil and Joe are also essential parts of the mix. So, Brian, here you go.
Well, wow, what an introduction. I don't feel I need to say anything, but thank you, Frank. That's very much appreciated. And yeah, Brian Curry, Fairfield Partners, there's it's very much a boutique firm. There's just 4 partners. We're all on the call. This call, Phil Bayes, Colette, Phil and I are in Connecticut. Colette Charles is in Arizona, and Joe Fowler is in Wisconsin. So one of the key things, first of all, there's 4 of us, 2 of us are on every call. So that when we were talking with Frank about doing this, we don't have these sessions with Frank and then say, great, and then hand it over to, let's say, a junior person. There's 2 of us that work every aspect on it. The regular calls with Frank, the reach outs to the candidates, the candidate interviews. Most of the time, there's 2 of us on that call. So that's our approach. And by the way, thanks again to Naturally New England, Naturally New York. We are proud sponsors of both. And just one last thing, I also met Carla only through videos like this. She was tremendous to deal with. She has a nice testimonial on her site that we still have up there to honor her. And it was when Frank gave us the call, it was shocking as well. So, all right. So getting to the search with Frank. So it was a VP of sales, and for their size, and I won't talk revenue numbers. By the way, our clients we've done searches for clients pre-revenue with no revenue, where their first search, often in that case, it's for a head of sales and not necessarily a VP of sales. And also not necessarily a VP of sales from 0 to 10 million. Sometimes that's a sales director. But in Jovial's case, with a few people reporting in, and with their size, it made sense to be a VP of sales. So the first thing we do is we like to get a history of the company. Although I learned some things in this, Frank, that I didn't know the first time, including the lawsuits, which, by the way, I have heard with other companies stealing their stuff, the people who were making it, then competing with them. So it's a jungle out there for sure. But what we try to do, we really want to become ambassadors for the company. So we want the history of the company. What is the revenue? And by the way, we sign NDAs. We sign NDAs sometimes with candidates and clients. And some of the information we get from clients, we don't necessarily share with the candidates, but it's good for us to know just as much of the story as we can. So one of the first questions was, who are the investors? And that's where we found out that, hey, this is not PE backed. It is very much a family business. And so, which many of our searches, I don't know what the percentage, but more than half are PE backed, where they're looking at a vision of an exit in 3 to 5 years, getting to that 30, 50 million or more, and exiting to one of the big box companies. So we really try to get as much information as we can: number of employees, organization structure, and then so once we got all of that, and then it's down to okay, what are you looking for in this individual? So Frank put up the slide of the clients. A lot of times it's very important for our client to have either experience, our candidates to have experience at a Walmart, at a Whole Foods. So it's not a learning curve for that VP of sales to come on board to start working with their biggest clients. Also, what distributors, what brokers are you working with? A lot of times our searches, especially on the sales side, is having experience with the distributors. And hey, if you're in the natural space, certainly is going to be UNFI and KeHE and some others. But specifically the retailers are often important. So then it gets down to what they were looking for, and I won't get into the details of that. But let's put it this way: every search we do, it's great if the individual has blue collar, not blue collar, has blue chip experience, with a Pepsi, Mondelez, Kellogg's, General Mills. But if they have not had an entrepreneurial experience closer to a Jovial, closer to, especially if, the 0 to 10, 15, $20 million company, we don't even, we'll look at their profile. If we don't find it, our clients will never see them. So we definitely look for, that kind of track record. And also, what is their progression? How long have they been with companies? Phil and I, Joe and I, Colette and I, we've all been on calls doing research, looking at profiles. And it's amazing. We'll look at somebody's profile over the last 10 years, and they've had 7 or 8 different jobs. And I don't know how they keep getting jobs. They're not getting them through us. But, we look for, and hey, sometimes switching a job is out of your control. A company moves away. A company does an exit. One of our first clients was Bare Naked. We did 8 searches for them as they grew from 1.6 to about 45 million, and Kellogg's Kashi bought them. Well, once they were acquired, everybody moved on. But we look for at least one or 2 experiences where they helped grow a company, whether it was to an exit or moved up in titles, and looking for that kind of growth. So we just we do that. We in that particular case, Phil and I were doing the interviews together. We then presented the candidates to Frank as we got down to the final 3 for both searches. So they were about a year apart, I think. The VP of sales, we recommend doing a bake-off, and it's very simple, and not to give the candidate all of this homework, but let's face it, it's a big decision for Jovial and any company out there hiring almost every position, but especially a VP of sales, VP of marketing, to do a little work on putting together, hey, if you got this, what would be your 30, 60, 90-day plan? Let's look at 6 months and maybe a little bit of a year. And often, as in Jovial's case, they share a little data, and maybe there's an NDA signed by the candidate there, but not to be, too obtrusive where, they have to work 2 days on it. And by the way, once in a while, it is rare, we have candidates, they don't want to do that. And we'll try to convince them that, hey, we think you should, but because, by the way, this is not just us doing it. A lot of companies are going through this process. And, sometimes whether it's their ego or, oh, they're going to take all my information and hire somebody internally, it's never the case. For candidates out there, you have to be aware for positions like this, that is pretty much the mode stepping in. So in both cases, they saw very good presentations, but it really helped them decide on the candidates. And we were just thrilled when Matthew started, and then about a year later when Allison started. And we've heard all the updates since of how they've been doing. So it was just a great experience. So the whole time, and you can go to the next slide, Frank. So you see Jovial in here. Here are natural food and beverage clients. We have several tabs at the bottom. I won't cover all of them, but I've been in the space. Bare Naked, that started in 05. Kind Snacks followed in 08, 09. And then a lot of these are recent clients. If we go to the next one. We're also very proud. We've worked with a lot of female founded, co-founded, or led companies, which are listed here. And then just one more. We've also been brought into a lot. So for years, so we were going to Expo East, Expo West, Fancy Food, which is coming up next month in New York, Fancy Food out west. And a lot of our business was coming from those shows and from the founders and CEOs. But in the last several years, a lot of PE firms started recognizing what we were doing, and we were brought in. Sherbrick Capital was the first. They saw what we were doing with Food Should Taste Good and had us do the VP of marketing for Angie's Boom Chicka Pop. L. Catterton was early on. We've done a number of searches for North Castle Partners, doing some now for a portfolio company, ECP Growth, which used to be Emil. And by the way, those are the PE. There's also partners in there. Natural Products Consulting. We've been a sponsor of Bob Burke's event for many years, and so a lot of these have brought us in. Where right now we're doing 2 CEO searches in addition to a number of different searches that are going on. And then this is, especially after Frank's presentation, you don't want to read this slide. This is our process. I talked a little bit about it already, but we do, and we do this all together. Like I said, 2 of us on every search, a client assessment. Then, we go through the steps with the candidates. And by the way, one thing we've gotten a lot better at is with the candidates is we used to reach out maybe to too many early on. And then some candidates would respond, the first one's responding, and we said, why did we reach out to this individual? So, we've really gotten a lot better, over the last several years, really looking at, hey, if this person's respond, are we excited to speak about them? And that's to speak with them about the opportunity. So, they got to pass that test. And in order to have that, they have to have a good track record. And by the way, I don't know if we know everybody that Frank talked about, but we do know a lot of people, and we can do some back channels when appropriate. When we don't, and by the way, we've only 2 times in 20 years have I placed the same candidate at a different company, and that was only after their company was acquired and moved on to a different one. So we never recruit ever from our clients. And we hardly ever place the same person twice. So we don't round up the usual suspects with every search. We do new research on and sometimes it's a geography, a vertical. We've done searches where it's really focused on the club business, or it could be the central region. So a lot of this has been sales and marketing, but as you saw on the pie chart earlier, we've done about 7 or 8 CEO searches and GM searches over the last 2 years. And then we've gotten very big into finance, CFO search for hippies and some others. So that's really, I don't know, Frank, if you have anything to add to when we work together on both of those searches. Oh, you're muted.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
No, I think our experience, a lot of great coordination and communication in between. I think you've told me there's nothing like a standard search. There's always something. There's always scheduling craziness and considerations. You were really flexible in that regard. And no, I don't think I have anything to add. It was great.
And yeah, we're just thrilled that Matthew, that was 5 years ago, and Allison, that was 4. We love when we guarantee our searches for a year, but we're thrilled when they're there 3, 5 years and more. We have one client that we've done over 20 searches for in Connecticut. They're actually not in natural products, but some of the people have been there 10 to 15 plus years that we placed, and we still get about 1 or 2 searches from them a year. So Ali and Adrian, I don't know if questions popped up in the meantime. mostly for Frank, I would guess.
Yeah, I think
I
this is a great time, Adrian, if you want to kick it off. Maybe people can start raising their hands to ask various questions during the remaining time.
Yes, I currently don't have any questions in the chat, but we got a lot of folks on the call, so don't be shy. You're welcome to unmute yourself to ask the question or drop it in the chat.
You left them speechless, Brian.
I'll ask
Okay,
a question.
go right
Um,
ahead.
I was curious about you guys approaching Walmart, and I'm sure you were not naming all of your partners, but just curious about how you balanced, the branding and the strategy of going with a Whole Foods and then into a Walmart, and just how you, yeah, balanced both the brand protection and the growth opportunities.
Yeah, sure. Good question. I will tell you that the Walmart business was a happy accident in that the brand, we were very much in Whole Foods. So if you had to pick a mass merch retailer that was similarly aligned with who we thought our consumer was and Whole Foods, it would be Target, not Walmart. So we hired a broker who was known for their expertise with Target. They also happened to cover Walmart, but we were not really thinking that anything would come of that. Of course, no way. An organic Italian pasta, like, no, doesn't belong at Walmart, right? Well, they presented it, and there was a buyer there who knew the brand from Whole Foods, and decided that they wanted to do a test. And so that test, it was like 100 stores, and the next year it was 500 stores, and now we're, in the gluten-free set at Walmart. We're in all of their gluten-free stores. We, are constantly kind of debating, do we like life over in the sleepy kind of hidden gluten-free set, or do we want to get into the mainline set? But I will tell you that the gluten-free shoppers at Walmart are very loyal. And even though they might be shopping at Walmart, they appreciate the brand's values and the products. We have a very high amount of people doing it for pickup and online through Walmart. So they've been a great partner for us. And just one last point. Once we started doing well at Walmart and Whole Foods, and we were investing in data, a lot of other distribution growth came along as a result. I mean, there wasn't a retailer that we couldn't point to, retailer A or retailer B, and show them some data and have them say, yeah, I should put this in my set too, because if it can work there, it'll work here. So that was kind of the story there. So don't turn your nose up at Walmart. They've been a great partner, huge partner for us, and we're still trying to crack the nut with Target. So
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I shop there. No snobbery intended. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, the next question here is from Jamil. For research and development or formula optimization, are those different services? I believe that's directed to Brian. Brian?
Asking me that
I believe so,
for
for
R&D
placements, Brian.
in terms of placements.
formula optimization, those different services. Yeah, it's not different. They would be different searches. But in terms of we've done searches for R&D, a lot for supply chain operations. We put in both heads and VPs of operations. That specific search, formula optimization, we have not done. I can tell you we've there's a lot of searches that we've done. When we've done them, it was the first time we were doing that search. Good example was Lego Toys, when their North American headquarters was in Connecticut. They called us, they contacted us to do some searches. We went up there and saw their headquarters, and that was completely different from the business that we're in, and we found them some great people over the years. But R&D, yes. Formula optimization, Phil, we've never done something like that, correct?
No, no, we haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Next question is from Cecilia. Can you share some high level, some key traits and experiences you were looking for with the head of sales and head of marketing searches?
Sure. The two, I think that's to me, right? Or are we to Brian?
You can
Either of
start it.
you.
You could definitely start it.
The key characteristic Brian touched on a little bit was we wanted somebody in each role that while they had experience with kind of all the tools, they also had experience with rolling up their sleeves and getting really dirty and weren't daunted by wearing 3 or 4 hats at a time. Who, in the marketing side, our budget was and is embarrassingly small. And so if you're a marketer who measures their importance by the amount of money you're spending for the company, this is not the job for you. If you get a thrill out of, getting the highest return on investment you possibly can with the dollars that we've allotted, then, this is going to be a great spot for you. So I'd say, that willingness to roll up the sleeves, grittiness, and, just a good fit overall is what we were looking for. So small company, you got to put your ego in check and be a good person to work with, but also, have broader experience and knowledges that will help.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I'm not muted. I talked about this before, but certainly, the track record is so important. But also, I didn't bring up before the understanding and how to use and leverage data. So what relationships is one thing, and that's that's good. Leadership, their management style is also important, but understanding and how and where to use data and present it properly is key. And on Frank's, when we did this marketing search and others, if the first question to us is what is their marketing budget and is it over $2 million, we pretty much know we're not speaking to the right person. And the other thing that I left out of what we do with the discovery is culture. And when we were talking with Frank, we talked with some others, including Carla, the whole idea to get the feel for the culture. So you want somebody, you're going to be dealing with this person on a regular daily basis. So you want to make sure you can obviously work with somebody. So we try to find the best fits from that standpoint.
We lose Adrian.
I can read this one off. Frank, what do you think will be the next big challenge for the company due to current geopolitical situations?
Okay. Well, actually, everyone on here can do Jovial a huge favor. Please spread the word. We are still paying tariffs. We've had a flood of inquiries, demands, letters from retail customers and distributors alike looking for lower prices and refunds now that the tariffs are over. And let me tell you, the tariffs are not over. They're very much here. We don't know what's going to happen in kind of the next wave of tariff enactment, but that's been a huge challenge for us. We kind of sucked it up as long as we could last year when we were enduring 10 and then 15% tariffs on all of our products, which come from Italy. And we did eventually take our prices up in, really November last year. What's next? The biggest question is what's going to happen with those tariffs. Second biggest question with the war, The war right now impacts us in 2, 3 ways. Obviously the price of fuel is on everyone's mind. Everything that touches fuel, from our outbound online store shipments to our ocean shipping cost is soaring. If the conflict were to get resolved, um, all of a sudden the Red Sea and the Strait of Hormuz would open up, and that would cause ocean shipping rates to plummet, which would be fantastic for us. And then also would ease some of the supply issues that are causing some of our co-manufacturers to raise their prices. So those tariffs, the war, of course, what's going on with consumers as a result of those factors as well. That's pretty much top of our mind right now.
Adrian again. I'm sorry, I had a slight technical difficulty, but I'm glad you guys were able to carry on. All right. The next question here is from Sean. Can you talk about the relationship you have with your co-packers? Is a critical relationship that every growing brand has to navigate.
Actually, going off of that, since I have a company myself, I'm curious if we could expand on that. I believe you said 14 co-manufacturers that you work with. I mean, one of my manufacturers shut down and we were out of stock for virtually 9 months, right? Like having a backup co-packer, I think, is really pivotal and important for brands like ours. So if you could just expand a little bit more on the general subject, I'd appreciate that, please.
Sure. And actually, we have 14 co-manufacturers in Italy, but we have 2 co-manufacturers here in the US who are packing or mixing products for us. Most of those ingredients come from Italy too. I'm not sure how much you're going to learn from me, because our 14 co-manufacturers in Italy, we do not have formal legal agreements with any of them. We're talking like at the most, there's an email that documented a conversation we had. That's just the Italian way. That's Rodolfo. It's a testament to Rodolfo. When we show up, it's like, old family has come to visit. And we, talk business for an hour or two and then eat for the rest of the day. But we do know of, backup suppliers. We have faced that. Being a good partner is working with the co-mans through tough times too. One thing that's been refreshing for me, being used to managing co-man through legal agreements, was that it is a relationship, it is a partnership with the Italian co-manufacturers, and so there's a lot of give and take. Like, what do you mean you're out of tomatoes? We needed another container, and it's going to cost you how much more to supply that? And agreeing to that, knowing that when it came time to negotiate the price for the next harvest, there would be that consideration. So it's been a lot more of a true partnership. It's not like we agreed to this rate on this date, and you will eat it even if it hurts you big time. Yeah, I mean, in our U.S. Co-manufacturers, we're aware of backups, and we could make the switch, but again, we try to be a good partner with them when times are tough. Communication is the key. I spend an enormous amount of time, and Rodolfo does, communicating to our co-manufacturers what's going on, what's happening. Why haven't I seen an order in 2 weeks? How come I got 3 orders in the last 2 weeks? And so helping them understand what's happening here in the U.S. and how it might affect their business going forward is very key. So treat them like partners. That would be my big takeaway.
We're almost at time, but I have a couple more questions here from Kamal. Congratulations, Kamal, on winning the People's Choice Award at the Naturally New England Pitch Slam last week for
Nice.
Hillside Harvest. Frank, can you talk about leveraging brokers and how hiring a sales VP has changed your broker dynamic or strategy?
Sure. Yeah, Kamal, congratulations. It didn't really change it. I'd say even before we brought on Matthew, there was a good relationship with brokers. Matthew is a great relationship builder, whether it's a retailer or a broker. And I would say he's strengthened our bond with the brokers a lot more. We use Presence for most of our brokering needs. And if you know Presence, then you know Milt Zimmerman. Milt, every time I've come to Milt with a request, he has delivered tenfold right away. He's been fantastic. He told me when I first started there, he told me, "Hey, Expo's canceled." And then, oh, by the way, my word of advice to you is that everyone's going to make a little money, Frank. Everyone's going to make a little money. And if you remember that about the broker and you're not looking at them like trying to squeeze them, but they're a partner in the business too, I think that works well. So I don't think changes. I mean, certainly Matthew knows other brokers. We've made some switches in other areas, but just knowing how to manage the broker, I think it is great.
Thank you, Frank. And the last question, Brian, do you operate co-founder searches or searches where the compensation may be heavy on options, light on salary?
So yes, on the first part, we've definitely done co-founder a number of times. The founder has brought us in to do the CEO search. One good example was Good Clean Love out in on the West Coast. Built it up to about a $15-16 million company, but both the founder, she and the investor felt, hey, now it's time to bring in some professional management. So in this case, it was a CEO. So we've definitely brought in, I wouldn't say a co-CEO, we've never done that, but a general manager, a chief operating officer, and the like. And yes, we have had some instances where, people, hey, the cash is not there, heavy. Let's put it this way. In general, a CEO search, and let's say if it's an early stage company, usually it will at least start with a 2, and as you get to even 5 and 10 million, it would start with a $300,000 base. In situations where you can't afford that, can it be less if there's more equity? Yes, but it's not going to be 50,000 or 100,000 or maybe even not $150,000 base. People who have done that or stepping in, they're used to a certain lifestyle. Unless you're coming off somebody who just had an exit and hey, they're looking for the next one where cash is not important. But since you did win the pitch slam, you have some free consulting with us. I think we give a half day, so we'd be pleased to spend some time and learn some more about that.
Okay, we have one more question. And this one's actually from Rodrigo, who won the Naturally New England Pitch Slam for his brand American Vinegar Works. Brian, can you address salary ranges for a director of sales level?
Sure. Easier to start at the top of VP of sales. We're seeing, and let's start. I'll go 0 to 10. But let's say around 10 million and bigger is at least we're finding in the 225 base range to 240, 250. It can go higher, especially if the company is $40-50 million or more in revenue. With that, the bonus is usually for that level, at least at a 30% level. If you then drop down to a senior director of sales, just a while back, it seemed like that was 175, 180, but that has crept up to 200K, especially for the better performers, 200 or more. It just depends. A director who maybe is still selling to accounts. We're finding that if a director is managing a few people, that once again, that's closer to 200K and more. Sales director with 10 plus years experience, usually about at least 175, 180 in that range, and then and then plus the 30% bonus. And by the way, in all of these situations, equity can help keep down the cash a little bit, but most of the people are driven by the cash annual compensation, in addition to the long-term incentives.
Thank you very much.
All right, and that concludes our session for today. I just want to quickly thank Brian and Phil from Fairfield Partners Executive Search for their contributions to the Naturally New York and New England community. Thank you, Frank Bergin, for sharing your insights and your story at Jovial Foods. This recording, contact information, and upcoming events will be shared in our follow-up communication. So we look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Well,
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Adrian.
Adrian and
Thanks,
Allie,
Allie.
and thank you, Frank. Great job.
Same to you, Brian. Thanks.
All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.